So, you asked for multiplayer, so let's make our third-person shooter project to be able to have multiplayer. Now, this video is going to be a little bit different from the others, and I'm not going to type along. I just to save time, because there are a lot of stuff there are a lot of stuff to write, and most of it is pretty similar, so you'll just be seeing the same things. Now, before we dive into our scripts, we should go to our third-person character controller, and the first thing you will see is that I have my camera holder under my third-person character, because I want this to be under the same prefab, so that we have only one prefab to instantiate that way. Now, my weapons, I have them closed. Okay, and actually I might not even use this. So let me get out of the debug mode. So after we have put a camera holder under our third-person character game object, we will also want to disable this, and just for a good measure, disable the camera inside over here, and then we should go into our third-person character and start closing all the other scripts we have over here. So the character movement, the user input, the weapon manager, the character stats, all of this, and then add a network identity component. Of course, tick it's a local player authority, and create a new script which is the network player. This one, I take this one is exactly as it started from the one from the SpaceSim multiplayer part, so if you follow that, just add this over here and we will see the changes over here. That's why you see the FPS, even though there's no FPS. So for the FPS part, just drop the camera holder and the main camera, and we will see in a bit what's inside this. The same as we did also from the previous from the SpaceSim multiplayer part, I created an empty game object which I called spawn positions. I've added the spawn positions in here, and then I've added a tag spawn positions, and it will automatically take all the empty game objects and put them as spawn positions. Now, because I'm going to need some other stuff especially for the UI, I've also created a new script which I called UI element, and I've added a UI canvas tag so I can find it from the script. Now, this script just holds the text, the pickup text game object, which is this one over here. Okay, this is pretty much goes without saying that this is project based, so you might not even have this, so you don't need this, or you can make it to be instantiated. There are other ways you can do this. I'm just doing it this way to save time, and the text is this one and this one, so I can find them with a tag. Now, forget about this guy, this is the enemy, and let's open up inside the network player. We're going to also do some changes into our user input, mostly, and we will see them in a bit. So open up the network player and let's go back to the top. As you remember, we must use the Unity engine.networking, and we must derive from network behavior. Now, whenever we want to sync a variable over the network, we need to add the sync var at the top and below our variable. The sync position and the sync rotation is exactly the same as we did it in the SpaceSim tutorial. Now, the new ones I've added, and I should have been a little more organized, is the sync forward, the sync turn, the aim, the weapon type. Now, all these are variables we will be taking from the animator. Now, the sync look position is also it will help us determine where the other character is aiming. Okay. Now, because we will have on the client, we will have, if a character is not a local player, we will have the user input, all the other scripts, we will have them except the weapon manager, the character stats, we will have them disabled, so we can use that IK, but we can use the IK from the built-in IK, and we can pass where we are when we hit play and when we are aiming. We can pass where exactly he's looking, and you will see it in a bit. So, and that is the sync, the look position. This is where we shoot. So if you remember the way we shoot, we draw a line from the bullet spawn point, which is the barrel of the gun, and where we hit the raycast. This is to help us know to draw the line to the other player, and of course this is to know that we shot. Our transform, our lerp rate, the FPS, we don't have an FPS, so we added the camera holder over here. You can change the name, the camera, and we can have a public bool that we shoot and a public vector3 shoot position. This is to help us determine and sync these variables over here. So we also need a reference further away from this stuff that we added for optimization. We also need a reference to our UI elements, so that I can take the stuff I've saved over here, the animator, the user input, a game object, which is the weapon, and you will see in a bit why this, and the weapon manager. So with those were our variables. So let's start adding our stuff. Of course, you can use start or on start is local player. You can decide what you want to do, and then this is how you get the net ID, even though I don't use it anywhere in this video. So the first thing we need to do is, of course, get the animator, get the weapon manager, and of course enable it. Now keep in mind this is not under is local player, so this will run on every instance of a player we have inside our game, and that is exactly what we want. Now of course, if you let it be enabled the weapon manager, you can also skip this part, but anyway. Now the way we have our script must have a weapon under its under our player, otherwise it will start giving null references, because we don't have a state for our player to not have a weapon. So how we fix that? We create a new game object and we instantiate it, the weapon, this over here. We instantiate the weapon, we don't care about position or rotation right now. We parent it under our transform and we add it into the weapon list, and all the other scripts we wrote in previous videos, they will automatically position it to the correct way, so you don't need anything else for that. So we need to enable the character stats, even though we're not going to use them a lot or any of this video. And now we start doing stuff only if it's a local player. So if this is an instance of a player that our character can control. As with the Space Sim tutorial, we find the spawn positions game object and find a random position from under the children from that list, and we spawn our player. So we move our player. Now of course this has a chance that it's they will spawn into the exact same position. Of course you can make more checks in here and avoid that. So we find our UI elements. Okay, we open up the character movement because we know we can move. We store the user input because we are using it elsewhere. Of course we enable it, and the pick text, the current ammo, the carrying ammo, we take them from the UI elements. Now we did this because it will start giving errors if we didn't, and this is just for the way we have our own our scripts from our previous parts. Okay, so next thing, of course we open up the camera, the FPS, the camera holder in our case, and enable the camera. And the important thing we need to do is to clear the parent of the camera holder so that it's not under our player. Otherwise it might start giving errors and we do not want that. So if it's not a local player, we need to run the setup animator from the character movement script, because this the character movement script is only going to be enabled only if we add it only the animator is going to be initialized. If you remember, we take the first avatar from the first animator we find under our so the avatar for this animator is going to be this avatar, and it's going to delete this animator, so that we do not have to, if we want to change models, we only need to change this one, and we do not have to copy all these components and drop them into our player. So this is straight from the setup animator. You find all the child animators, and if the first child animator is not the animator we have cast over here, then take that avatar and destroy that animator. And of course we set up the rigid body to be kinematic, because we are going to be moving the transform with a lerp, so we do not want him to react with physics. Now on update, we call the update transform, and of fixed update we transmit we call the transmit transform functions. This is the exact same with the Space Sim tutorial. So on update transform now, if it's not a local player, as we said before, we take the position and the rotation, we lerp from the transform position with the sync position by time delta time by lerp rate, and it's the same with the rotation, but of course we do a spherical lerp. Now for the animator, we pass the animator set bool the aim animator, the aim parameter is going to be the sync aim, the forward is going to be the sync forward, the turn is going to be the sync turn, and the weapon is going to be the sync weapon type. And if the sync weapon type is to play if you're holding a pistol or if you're holding a rifle, we have a different animation, and that we set that up in the animator with an integer. So that's what we're passing, so that we know, so that plays the correct animation. This is, of course, it can play without all this, but you're not going to have any animation, or the character is going to just sit on the idle. So if sync shoot, if you are shooting, we have a new function which is draw shoot ray. We will see in a bit what it is. So if the sync shoot is true, we turn it to false. Now, of course, you will think that this, of course, is controlled from the network. What the state of this is controlled, but by what state it has over the network. But because we're not sending messages every second, okay, then you can change this. We can change its state to false so that it closes. It automatically closes without having. Otherwise, it's going to draw a lot of rays, and we only want to draw one for every time we shoot. So, of course, the else is empty. Let's keep it that. So, on animator AK, if it's not a local player, remember what we said before, and if we are aiming, then set the look at weight to 1111, all one. We don't, or you can change this to whichever one you like, and set the look at position with the sync look position. And if it's not aiming, then close the look at weight. Make the weight 0 so that it's closed the AK. So this is exactly the same as our Space Sim tutorial. Okay, we pass the position, and the position we pass, we store it in the sync position. The same for the rotation, and it's pretty much the same for all our animator values. So we have a float forward, a float turn, a bool for the aim, the weapon type, and the look position. And we take every variable we want to be synced over the network, and we store it this way. Now, the same for our shoot values. Okay, we pass and we store them into the sync shoot and the sync shoot position. Now, on the client callback, of course you can use client instead of client callback. Then our function which is called transmit transform. If it's a local player, then if you remember the little optimization we did over here, so we're not sending stuff over the network every second, every time. We only change the distance only if our distance before the previous position we were is over half a point. Only then we pass a new position so that it lerps to the new position. Now, of course, on our spaceships it works great, but for this one it might not work that great. But I'm not going to do any changes over here right now. You can, of course, try it yourself and find your own the values it works for you. The same as for the the rotation, it only changes if the angle is greater than half a point. It only passes the new rotation. And then our float forward is we're going to store, we create a new floats over here, because we're not, otherwise I will have to, instead of forward, I will have to write all this, and this line was going to be way too much big. So forward, anim get float forward, the turn, the aim, and the weapon, and then on our we call our command pass animator. Remember, everything, every command must start with the CMD. So we pass the animator values, the forward, turn, and weapon type, and over here we have the user input, but this is the pass, look, position. We don't have this variable over here. We don't store it here. We store it inside user input, and we will see in a bit what the changes we need to do inside user input. So if we shoot over here, only then you will have to pass the command pass shoot values, which is of course the shoot and the shoot position, and you will change the shoot to false. Now of course we also do this so that it doesn't always pass the shoot, it doesn't always pass the shoot as false over the network, and no, it's a little bit more optimized so that you do not send messages every time. Now of course this, you can do a lot of more optimization over this. Okay, this not that great for optimization purposes, but I'm not going to dive too deep into optimization, because even at this stage this is pretty much might only work with the stuff we already have, and if you try a different project, this all these things might even be useless. Okay, this is exactly to work exactly with the exact scripts we have right now. So the last thing, the last function into our network player script is the draw shoot ray, which is simply instantiates the bullet prefab which we take from the weapon manager. We do not care for position or rotation. That bullet prefab has a line renderer. The start position of that line will be from the weapon manager, from the active weapon, from the bullet spawn point. We transform it into world position. The endpoint, we initialize it as vector 3.0. Then we set the positions. The first position will be the start position, and the second position will be the sync shoot position. So the last position is going to be the position we pass over the network. So that's it for the network player. Now let's go into our user input. Now let me see. The two variables I've added is a public bool to know that it's a multiplayer character, and a reference to our network player, which is called net player. I've added this because you might not want to have to use this. You might want to have single player and multiplayer, so you do not have to do stuff that is only for the multiplayer. Okay, this is completely optional, and this is just for our own scripts. So the other thing I've added is, now I don't remember if these were public in previous videos, so if they're not, make them. So we added a new public vector 3, which is the pass look position, which is the one we pass over here. Okay, so over here on start we only add it if it's a multiplayer character, then initialize the network player. Correct. Okay, we do, or no, we do not care about that, neither that. On update, where if we are aiming, of course, and you remember, if we are aiming and we click the left button, we shoot. So if this is a multiplayer character, we also need to turn the shoot boolean into our net player and make this into true. Okay, and because we have two cases where we can shoot, I've also added this over here. Now of course you can have the reload, but I'm not passing this over the network. It's pretty much the same as every other thing we did. So this is how we inform that the player is shooting. And then after that, we not want this, either this. Now of course we have a lot of cases, so for if you want to pass, you will need to have to be passing stuff. If somebody picks up a weapon or another object, all this stuff must be passing through the network. Now of course you have to, the way you will do it is the same as we did with the weapon. We will store everything that can change from the network. You can save it in lists, and let's say he's picking up, the other player is picking up a helmet, you will go into that list, find the instance of that helmet and instantiate it into the game, and from there the scripts parent it under the other player, and the instance of the script, the way we have set it up, they will place it automatically, or you might need to change some stuff. Now shoot ray, we do not pass anything. Now the last thing we need to add is, of course, from inside the late update, when we are aiming, you need to pass the pass look position and make it the look position, so that, and the look position in turn is the ray we're doing from the camera. We get a point over the ray we do from the camera and pass it as the look position over here. And now this is the only stuff, I think, that you need to change over from the user input. Now of course we have a ton of stuff over here, we have attachments, we have all this, and this is why I said passing all the stuff from the network is, of course, a whole lot of work of itself. So I'm not going to pass everything because there's no point to it. So this is the basics, how you pass stuff with an aircraft player and user input. Now I hope I didn't forget anything. So let's go over here. Let's make sure we have everything we need to have. Now don't forget to tick multiplayer character, since this is a multiplayer instance, into the user input, network identity, local player authority, and into our network player we will pass the my transfer, we will pass this transfer. Lerp rate, we said about the FPS and the camera, and you will also see that we have the boolean for if we are shooting, the shoot position, and the weapon. This weapon is not a weapon that is inside the inside the game right now, it's the prefab over here, which is simply take the weapon and drag it down and make it a prefab. Okay, so this is the weapon it will instantiate on start. But you can make, instead of having just one game object over here, you can make a list, and instead of have an integer, that is the ID of the weapons. So it will go into that list with that ID, and it's going to instantiate that weapon instance. And it's the same as we talked before with helmets and stuff like that. So let's crash test. Before we do that, we need to apply the prefab and delete this one, because we will be having multiple instances if we don't. So build a run, and if everything is okay, then we will have no problem with our scripts, with our multiplayer game. So I'm going to change the graphics quality to something really simple, because I'm also recording. And just let me put this over here. I will hit play, and I will do the host. Let me maximize this also. The host, it's going to be me, and I'm going to click into my other instance, be the client. And you will see that if you see down here, that I can move. Of course, we're not seeing the other one, so maybe let's do it this way. Let me find the other one. Now let me think how we can. So look him over there. Of course, you can see him look around, and if I aim, you see he also aims, and if I look up and down. Now of course he is using the IK, so it might not be exactly the same position we are looking. You can create because we are using a different IK to aim when we are controlling the character and when it's controlled over the network. So you can of course extract the IK for this, for when we are controlling the player, and use that also for over the network, but that's of course based on what you want to do. And you will see that if I shoot, the other player, also the instance of the player over the multiplayer, he is also shooting. Now of course I don't have any hit detection right now, but it's the same way we had our shooting mechanics and how we passed over the network. It's exactly the same. So you will create a new boolean and say if it's true, then we hit somebody, so that means he takes damage. You can make more checks over it and say check the distances if it's close to where the and there might be a collider or something. So, and you can check the distance between where the player is and how far it's the shot. So if it's any latency and the character has moved way too much far away from that position, then he will not take damage or take fewer damage. That is all based about how you want to design your own game. And let's make sure that he's also working. Now of course you can see the second screen. So that was basically it, the multiplayer. That was a little different from what we were doing, but that is because this is pretty much it's not such a general tutorial like the other ones I've made, because we have so many parts in this series. Okay, so you know. So anyway, that was it. If you're having troubles with the script, feel free to pause the videos, watch it, and write it at your own pace. Okay, this is a lot of stuff, and networking is a big part. Or if you do not want to write, of course, consider supporting me on Patreon, and you will get the scripts as a reward. And since it's close the end of the month, then if you pledge before the end of the month, then you will not have to wait a whole month for your payment to clear, and I will give you the scripts. So thanks for watching. The new schedule is a new video every weekend, and when I have time I will make another one inside the week. And don't forget to like and subscribe. If you have any suggestions for videos you want to make, feel free to leave them below and I will get into it. And also if you have any questions. And don't forget to like and subscribe, and you can support me on patreon.com/C#accent, where with $5 or more you can get access to a Google folder where you will find all the scripts I make in the videos. So I'll see you next time.